Hey, I'm Evan, a cinematographer from Massachusetts, and today I'm here comparing the brand new Canon C300 MkII to the Sony FS7. The C300 MkII has a lot of hype to live up to, as the second edition of one of the most popular cameras of this decade. With that legacy comes a hefty price tag at $16,000. We're all shooters here at LensProToGo, and we've had a lot of discussions in the office about the C300 versus the Sony FS7. The FS7 offers stiff competition to the C300, as based just off a spec sheet, you could say that it offers a lot of the same features for half the price. So we decided to go out and have a head-to-head battle between the two. The first thing we decided to compare is dynamic range. The C300 MkII has been promoted as having 15 stops of dynamic range, which is greater than that of the Arri Alexa. Cinema 5D recently did a clinical lab test of the dynamic range of the C300 and measured it to be closer to 13 stops, which has caused quite an uproar on the internet. In my real-world tests, I found that the dynamic range of the FS7 and C300 are basically neck and neck, so if you're keeping score, it's hard to pick a winner just yet. The second thing I compared is color. Going into these tests, I honestly expected the C300 MkII to mop the floor with the FS7. Canon has just had a way better track record with their color science than Sony has. I was honestly surprised at how closely the C300 MkII and FS7 performed in regards to color. The C300 has a bit of an edge when it comes to skin tones and certain other things, but overall I was really impressed at how well the FS7 held its own. If I had to pick a winner here, I definitely lean towards the C300, but the FS7 is a really close second. The third thing I tested is frame rates. Both cameras shoot high frame rates, which are used to achieve super slow motion, but this is one place where the FS7 consistently edges out a lead. The FS7 does 60p at 4K, while the C300 only does 60p in HD. The C300 shoots up to 120 frames per second in 1080, but the FS7 does 180 frames per second. The C300 also has to use a significantly cropped version of the sensor to shoot anything above 60 frames per second. Here you can see the difference between the full sensor readout on a 24mm lens and the cropped version when shooting high speed. It's a pretty significant crop. The FS7 does all of its slow motion using a full readout of the sensor, so frame rates are a clear win for Sony. The next thing I tested was usability and ergonomics, and to me this is where the C300 MkII really shines. It just works. The FS7 is a great camera, but honestly a lot of the time that I've shot with it, I've just felt frustrated because it feels like I'm fighting with it. Menus aren't well laid out, it's hard to get to the things you need to get to, and basic things like histograms and even a LUT for your monitor are almost impossible to find. The C300 MkII, on the other hand, makes all those things easy to access. The menus are great, it's easy to dial in any setting you want without having to dig through menus, and when you do have to go into the menus, they're really simple. One thing that really stood out to me about the new C300 is that it has a 5-position ND filter which goes up to 10 stops as opposed to a 3-position 6-stop filter on the FS7. Some of these issues can be solved by adding accessories to the FS7 like the Zacuto Gratical Viewfinder, but overall I think that base package, the C300 is a clear winner for usability. The next test between these two cameras was high ISO performance. One of the obvious differences between them is base ISO. The C300's base is 800, while the FS7 is 2000 if you're shooting S-Log3. That's also why you might notice a slight difference in depth of field between some of these shots, as I had to stop down the FS7 a little more to get it to match exposure with the C300. In my quick tests, both cameras handled up to ISO 2000 really well, and up to 4000 pretty well, but things were starting to get noisy. By the time you got up towards 6400 and 8000, the image was really starting to break apart. The noise is mainly in underexposed areas, and to be honest, I find that neither camera really enjoys being underexposed much. Even at the lower ISOs, the shadows can tend to get pretty noisy pretty fast. The place that I did see a difference is I feel like the C300 held more sharpness and dynamic range when underexposed than the FS7 did. Overall, I'd call this a tie, with neither camera feeling like a low-light monster like Sony's A7S or even my C100. The C300 has a number of other features that the FS7 doesn't, which can add together to make a big difference. One of the big ones is dual pixel autofocus. The new face detection mode is amazing, and the ability to move your target for focusing while recording is also super helpful. In HD and 2K, the C300 can shoot 444 12-bit footage, which is an amazingly strong codec. It has the ability to record 1080p proxy footage to an SD card while recording 4K internally, as well as the ability to record internally to its CFast cards while exporting 4K RAW to an external recorder. Overall, from an image perspective, I'd say it's pretty much a tie. The C300 has slightly better color, but the FS7 does slightly better frame rates. I think the big differentiator between these cameras is usability. Between the monitor and D-filters, proxy recording, and menu navigation, I would just rather shoot with the C300. Sadly, there's a pretty hefty price premium to pay for that usability. If you're shooting every day, the C300 will make your life easier on set. But if you're on a tight budget or really need high frame rates, the quirks on the FS7 are something you can work around. To me, this whole test reinforces the idea that there's no such thing as a perfect camera, just the right tool for the right job. Have questions? Shoot us a call or send us an email at service@LensProToGo.com. We're all pro shooters here, and we'd love to answer any questions and get you into the gear you need. That's about it. Let us know which camera impressed you and why in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.